Sometimes in life, I think there are times where we'd rather be anywhere than where we are right now or right then and there in that moment, you know? And in the short term, times like these don't really seem to be that big a deal, right? So, like, I remember when I was a little kid and we had to go to the store to get gluten-free bread for my brother who has special needs, and I was like 7 years old, and my mom had to spend hours just standing in the grocery aisle at the store trying to make sure that there wasn't a certain preservative in the food for my brother. Otherwise, he'd go to like the hospital because he would just have like screaming fits because his stomach was hurting and all this stuff. And I had to spend hours at the store, and I'd be like, oh my, and I was like 7 years old, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this sucks. I'd rather be anywhere else than right here in this moment. And obviously, when you're in a situation for 2 hours, I mean, this can happen at work, you know, where you're in you just having a meeting you really don't want to be in, and you just have this almost like magnetic opposition, like a north north south south opposition to the situation that you're in, you know, for a period of time. I think we all have this happen. The problem is what happens when we're in a situation where we'd rather be anywhere else, but it's like with everything. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people end up in a job where it's bad, but and people end up in life situations and relationships that are bad. But when the entire thing, the picture that gets painted is one in which any alternative is better than the one that you have now, I mean, it's like, it's not only is it depressing, but I would like to make the case that it's like, it's pretty much all over by that point. So I guess I'll give you an example. You know, I just had a terrible job and I quit it. And while I worked there, by the time I got to the end of it, I would literally rather be doing anything else or be in any other situation than the one that I was in, because the frustration and misery of the job carried over into every aspect of my life. So it poisoned every aspect of my life. So when I would go to work, not only would it suck, but I would also have it poisoned my relationships, it poisoned parts of my marriage, it poisoned parts of my confidence. It just kind of got into every little area. And because of that, I eventually came to this conclusion that I would rather be anywhere other than here. And what's interesting is that once you end up in that space, it kind of becomes, it's almost like it's hard to explain it, but it's almost like you're in a laundry machine and you're just tumbling forever. You basically infinitely spiral because you're like, I'd rather be anywhere than here. And the fact that you're there and you stay there makes you feel worse. And so because you feel worse, it just kind of like spirals itself over and over again. And so you never really feel like you can get like a bearing on anything. And so it's like, if you'd rather be doing any job than the job you're doing and you're not, it makes you feel miserable and feel like crap, it makes it incredibly hard to, I don't want to say get out, but it can make it feel like really, really hard to get out of that situation. And so because you feel like crap, like you feel like you can't get out of the situation, it affects your judgment, it affects your thinking, your emotions, your mood. And then because of that, you never feel like you can get the leg up emotionally to get out of it. And so you stay stuck in it because you never feel like you're in a position where, you know, you can get a leg up and improve things. And so then you stay stuck in it, and then you feel like you'd rather be anywhere other than there, and it just keeps going and going forever, right? So you never really feel like, once it's a lost cause, it's very, very hard to remedy or rescue a situation like that. Like if I'm at a job and I'd rather be anywhere else than doing what that job is, it's like, it's very hard to rescue that. It's very hard to save that. Same with things like a marriage or a relationship, or, you know, salvaging a relationship with a family member or a business partner or something. Once it's been spoiled through various means, burnout, betrayal, whatever, it's like, there really is, you might go in and try to see if you can fix things and pick it up, but once you'd rather be doing anything else, you're just kind of like stuck in a position where your mind doesn't want to keep going back. Like I said, it's like a magnetic polar opposite, you know, position. And so I bring this up because I think we all kind of stay in this position when we get there. Like when we come to the conclusion that we'd rather be anywhere else, that's the end. Like that's the end, you know. So if you aren't quite sure, but you're like still trying to salvage it, I think that's just the end once you get to that point, because you've essentially accepted that there is no more benefit at all. You've essentially weighed the costs and the pros and the cons, and you've done the cost benefit analysis, and you've decided that this is absolutely not worth it anymore. Like once you've come to that conclusion, there's really no point to spend any more time wondering if it's the right decision. Once you'd rather be anywhere else, and not to mention, it can even be like, it might not even be something that is like going on mentally with you. Like you might emotionally feel that way, but you can't articulate it in a way that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So, pardon the rain, but you know, like I said, I think that as long as you know we're paying very close attention to what's going on in our lives, when we have that feeling of like, this absolutely sucks. This is the worst place for me to be right now. I would rather be anywhere else than where I'm at right now. Then you got to consider the fact that you're, even if it's not mentally or logically true, you know, it might be your emotions, it might be parts of your subconscious, you know, or my subconscious that are just telling me it's time to move on. And even if we don't know what moving on looks like, it would be better to move on and to stay put in a situation where we know we're not supposed to be there anymore, you know?